Good morning, everyone. I'm Giovanni Russo, and this is the Media Mogul News Hour. I'm here today with our guest, social entrepreneur Raymond Bell. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Welcome to
Thank
the
you for
show.
having me. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You're welcome. A little early. I don't typically record until like after one. So we originally met. Now I think that it's been over 10 years ago,
Oh yeah.
10, 11 years ago.
Mhm.
You were recommended by a coworker of mine at the time, Patrice Lancaster, a good friend, probably the best political advice I get from her. But she had told me about your program. I think at the time that you were having a little trouble with DC government with trying to get some support, but that kind of comes with the beast
Yes.
dealing with that city. Years later, I do remember that there were two mayoral candidates that both, at the time I recall, their campaigns were kind of touting you around, sort of at the time, or at least their team was. I don't quite remember the end result. But all these years later, I've seen how you've expanded, moved across town, and I've been keeping up with all the amazing things that you've been doing. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and kind of share. I think it's important that people like myself get platforms like this because I have such a unique perspective on what it means to try to build a person up, especially a young person of color growing up in the inner city with very few resources. So I'm looking forward to sharing and educating people and hopefully us continue to have conversations long after today.
Yes, and I was saying in the pre-show that I've since moved away. I've been in Central Virginia for the last 4 years. But around the time that I first went to your program, to be honest, I've started studying poverty and crime for about the last 10 years.
Mhm.
At that time, I had just finished working at the World Bank, and I had just gone into mental health around the Navy Yard area, which is whole other side of town, whole different
Mhm.
area. And I was really learning a lot of this from scratch. And it was really a time where Patrice was basically telling me to like shut up, go sit in the back of the room, listen to Raymond Bell speak. You were one of the first examples of what I got to learn about regarding what the solutions are. And so with me being in Virginia now, I take the last decade of lessons that I've learned, how programs like yours are able to help people in the community because for one, the majority of your students, to my understanding, are the problem demographic, lower socioeconomics that almost no one else really wants to touch.
So,
Correct?
we like to say that our students got dealt a bad hand in a sense, growing up a lot of times single parent household, minimum wage jobs, poor performing schools, not a lot of mentors, very few male positive role models, and in that case, female role models as well. If you don't mind, I'd like to back up just for a second because I want
Sure.
to love for people to kind of understand how I even got the opportunity to kind of have this interview
Hmm.
with you. Because I think it's important that people understand what we've built and hope my hope is that there's some inspiration and people will begin to see that what we built could really work in any major urban city. So in 2009, I went on a personal campaign to try to end poverty. And since then, I've helped train, coach, and mentor about 2,000, primarily DC residents, but not all DC residents, that now work on every major government contract in the Washington metropolitan area. Our top student graduate makes $400,000 a year. We have a student that just came
Man.
back from Afghanistan after 2 years, pulling $250,000, didn't even have to pay any taxes.
Oh, wow.
802,000 graduates hold some kind of government clearance from a public trust all the way to a top secret with a polygraph. 41% of our graduates are female. And I want people to hear me when I say this. My students are from inner city DC. They're not the handpicked ones who did 2 or 3 years at Howard or Morehouse
Right.
or Virginia State and just decided to drop out of school, although they were super sharp and they enrolled in my program. My students, their reading scores on average is ninth grade. We have to test everybody when they enroll, some called a CASAS
Hmm.
test. And their math scores are 7.5 grade, almost eighth grade. That's the average. We've had some people do college level reading and math, but that's the average. We've had some people as low as
Right.
6. But what's important to
Oh
note,
wow.
they average $70,000 a year. So we've taken lemons and made lemonade in a sense. I needed people to understand that we've accomplished a lot, and people are only surprised of the success of the kids that I'm describing is because they are inner city kids with a lot of times challenging backgrounds.
Right. And so, what made you decide to embark on this journey?
So I got tired of seeing young people struggle. And I remember talking in the car, talking to someone one day, and they was like, "Why don't you do something about it? Don't just keep talking about how bad it is. You're a brilliant man. You care about your community. You care about your people. Why don't you fix it?" I said, "You know what? Well, yeah, I will." So I started trying to do my research around what was a good career that had a great entry level salary because I know I had to push the people. So I can't have people leaving my school and making $15 an hour. Nobody's going to put up with me to go get a job that makes $15 an hour. So it had to be a really good paying job with a good entry level salary.
Hmm.
I needed a career that I could train them in 3 to 6 months because most of the people I'm trying to help, they don't have 4 years to go to college. They can't
Right.
give up 4 years. And then thirdly, I needed to pick a career that there were a lot of jobs available for people without 4 year degrees. Just basically a lot of jobs available. And I stressed that because I remember, I want to say it was the Obama administration, when he first got in the office, they were really touting green jobs. And I wasn't a fan
Hmm.
of that because to this day, I do not know anybody that has a green job. I'm willing to bet most of the people that are listening don't know more than one or two people max that have a green job. But I personally know thousands of people, non-degree, that have IT jobs and do really, really well for
You're
themselves.
right.
So that's why I picked IT, and we're in the right
Okay.
area, so it's tons of jobs, and we've been cranking them out ever since.
And the thing about it is that, so the Washington, D.C. area, that is a city whereby people introduce themselves by where they went to school and what they do for a living all
Yes,
the time.
I've been to those parties. I've been to those parties. I was the only one in the room without a 4 year degree. It was very. It would have been very uncomfortable for most people, but I had absolutely no problem with it, not
Okay.
at all. And everybody asked me when they walked in the door, "So where'd you go to school?" And I was I graduated from Baloo, and of course I got the weirdest look in the world. And then about the work that I was doing, and by the time the evening was over, everybody realized I had had a greater impact on the community that we all supposedly care so much about than
Right.
probably everybody in the room put together.
Okay. And that's what matters. But I brought it up because it's an area where it's expected for people, to have that level of education. So for you to even embark on one, looking at that demographic to help and to have that as a solution, that's amazing because unfortunately, as it, and this, DC government, a lot of other city governments, they don't think that much of them. And so the jobs that they target them for are things that are making arguably less than half of what your program is promising them afterwards.
Mhm.
So that was amazing. First, they would have probably discouraged you from doing that, saying, "What do you mean you're going to take kids with
Mhm.
sixth and ninth grade reading level and having them to try to make $70,000 when they're finished? That's not going to happen."
I got that a lot. I got laughed at when I first started. It was like
Really.
black people, white people, old people, young people. They laughed me out of a lot of rooms saying, "There's no way that's going to work, Bill." Thank God. Even my own sister, my very best friend, she was like, "Why don't you try real estate?" She was like, "Why don't you come work with me? We flipping house. I'm making all this money. Why don't you come do that? Because you got a lot of talent. You can do anything." I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this and I'm going to help a lot of people in the process. So years later, when she would come to my office and she would see all the success stories on the wall, to a classroom and she see my students raising their hands, answering questions, young black faces who would normally be standing on the corner, she would always,
Yeah.
this is every time she came to my office and say, "I'm glad you didn't listen to me." I said, "Me too."
And might I add, look, so if this started in 2009 and she was trying to get you into real estate, let's reverse and go back to what was happening in real estate at that time period. I too was in real estate marketing around the time. So I kind of remember a little bit, unfortunately, of what, what
Yeah,
occurred
yeah.
at the time. I think I even sat in the back of the room and I said, "Do I want to try to take this certification? Just,
I remember that.
just to your credit."
I'm gonna try to find them and send them to you. I have some pictures of you from that event. Yeah.
Okay, I'll look forward to seeing those. And so, look, so you started with an A plus certification,
Mhm.
which again, just sitting and watching that, and also, so I think it was 2011 or 12. I think that when that we met, and so you had already had a ton of press at the time. So I don't even think I knew that the program was that new, or maybe I forgot. But
Mhm.
it seemed to have been enough recognition for someone who would have seemingly been out for much longer than that. So I
So,
mean, it's good to see that there were people who are able to see the value early on.
but it's important for me to share that there was a story behind that. You probably talking about the Washington Post article that came out probably a year after we started. The gentleman found out about our program. We were just doing recruiting, and he literally
Mhm.
convinced his editor to let him follow us for the entire program. He was not allowed to release that story until the program finished, because obviously nobody thought that we would. They figured it would start a month or two, and then it would just kind of just dissolve. All the students
Mhm.
stayed. They all did really well. They started gain some traction with employment. This is like right out of the gate, because we didn't have a reputation for building high quality candidates due to it.
Right.
But we completed the program. We had a graduation, and I think he went on News Channel 7 or 9 or something like that. And then he had the big Washington Post article, and that led to a lot of eyeballs being placed on us and on the work that we were doing, and specifically how to train, coach, and mentor young inner city kids for careers. In our case, IT, but it really would work in most major occupational skills. Because I hope we get a chance to talk at some point about our acquisition of a career school. So now we have our IT training along with armed and unarmed security guard. And what we're really passionate about right now is our CDL program.
Which, by the way, I think is amazing. So when I looked up, I just was on Facebook and I said, I saw that you bought your first truck, and I said, "What?" So
Yes.
that's interesting. That's not quite something that I would expect.
Right. It's literally
Someone.
the world.
But sidebar, I do have to admit, so I do have a little interest in that. So my parents had a trucking company in 80s and 90s.
Okay.
And I think at one point they had like 10 trucks, 4 trailers, and then we're doing owner operators. So I've always sort of secretly had that, interest.
Okay.
I follow logistics news.
Yeah.
I was just looking at a TED. Ironically, yeah, I think I was looking at like a TED talk of freight transportation like a week or so ago. Um, so yeah, I mean, this time in history, obviously there's a huge backlog of there needing to be truck drivers. I think numbers
Yes.
like 80,000 were under. There's 800 companies, and shoot, I don't remember how many countries. I'm not going to start lying.
Mhm.
Where this is needed. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
It's
this
not even
fits
just in the
right in.
United
But
States. This is worldwide. There's a shortage of
yeah,
truck drivers. Yes. So
and there was.
I mentioned though about CDL, because I don't know if we're gonna get enough time. I don't know how much time we're gonna be able to talk about the topic, but I think it's important to mention that in the last couple years, I'll probably say 5 to 7, there's been a huge influx of more people like your parents, more people of color getting into the industry, and they're not just
Okay,
driving the trucks. That's probably one of the reasons why it's probably such
I
a
didn't
short.
know that.
They're using the trucks, and they're getting on these load boards, and they find the work, and they're leasing and buying trucks, and they putting other people to work. There's a
Mhm.
lot of people of color that's starting to do really well financially, and we need to keep that momentum going.
Okay.
So you're running across these young kids who want to get their CDL license, but they don't want to go to school because you have to now. It's a law, and they're blowing it
Hmm.
off saying they don't want to go to school. They go do something else. We gotta convince them to still stay in the industry, even if they don't drive long term. They drive long enough to understand the industry and do something else in trucking, because we're incredibly
Right.
represented. And my fear is that the new law is going to run a lot of brown and black kids away from the industry because you do now legally have to go to a school to get a CDL. You can no longer self-study or like get your mom or dad who has a CDL to kind of teach you how to drive. Those days are over.
How long has that been a rule?
February the 7th of this year.
Oh, I
Mhm.
did not. So I did not know that up until now one could self study. I
Most
had
people
no
don't.
idea.
Because we get calls every day because when they go to DMV or MVA and they, well, I'm here to take my learners, and they say, well, what school did you go to? Like, I ain't going to school. I self-study. And they happy to
Hmm.
say that, but they're like, no, that doesn't work anymore. You have to go to a school. You got to pick one of these schools. And they call us and they're mad because they got to go to school. They got to sit in the
Hmm.
classroom. They got to pay, and it takes a little longer. It's a frustrating thing. That's why I'm stressing the fact we got to convince people not to
Hmm.
run away from it because they put another barrier in place.
Right.
It's very scary right now for me to see young people walking away from this opportunity because they don't want to invest a little time and money in education. Because the white community, the young men and women in Iowa and West Virginia, they're gonna make the investment to get their schooling in, get their license, and
Hmm.
build careers for themselves and their families.
No, absolutely. I'm just surprised. I did not know that people were self
It was
studying
supposed to
up
it
until
was
then.
supposed to kick in February of 2020, but because of the pandemic, they decided to push it back like 2 whole years,
Okay.
trying to give people a chance to get prepared. But the law has been in the works for the last 10 years. They're saying it's primarily safety because there's too many
Hmm.
fatals. That's the lingo in the industry. Too many fatals, too many people
Hmm.
on the roads. And when they go to
Right.
the first question the attorney asks is, where'd you go to school? And they already probably know they didn't go. So it makes their case really easy for them being at fault.
Right.
They want to see records. They want to see driving history. They want to see where you went to school. They want to interview the people that work at your school, your instructor. And they're saying no to all
Right.
these things. And the safety people are loving it. So there you go. There you go.
Hmm.
There's the law.
And so now that I think of it, I'm really digging kind of hard, digging my memory to see if I have this correct. I know there are companies like CRST. I don't know if I think that they might pay them. I think the
Yeah,
training is included.
they do.
It's
So here in
included,
Iowa,
and then they have to stay with them for like a year or two. I think after that to make up for their training.
yes, and man, this is such an important conversation. First of all, they've been doing that for years, like over 20. I've had friends of mine from
I've
DC,
heard.
Southeast DC, that they saw the ad. They gave them a bus ticket, 25-hour ride
Oh,
from Iowa. They put them up in their little dorms. They trained them aggressively,
really?
got their license. Oh, yeah. And they paid them to come to class. And their deal was you have to work for us for a year. They make their
Mhm.
money back tenfold because they paying them $17 an hour and they probably get $250,000 a year off each one of those truck drivers. So it's worth the
Good
money to
numbers. Good
train.
numbers to know.
Oh, they making a killing. And I'm not mad at them for doing it. I mean, if I had to,
Mhm.
because I was in a position to do it, I would probably pay a higher rate, but I think it's a good
Mhm.
model. I just don't think our people locally have to go to Iowa to get a CDL and learn how to drive.
Yeah, Iowa, a 25-hour trip to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and comparatively, oh yeah, and regarding safety. So you probably know this. You know, if you spend any time on social media and see a truck accident, all the comments will say it's probably a Swift driver.
Yeah, everybody says that.
Yeah.
Yes. They have a horrible
And
reputation in the community.
yes, of which for those who don't know, I believe that's a company that I know that they're big, and they do their own training, I believe.
Mhm.
Right. Okay. So I,
Yes.
but it's very short to my understanding. I think it's very short training, and I think that it's also not very invasive.
So basically, what's happening is, especially now with the need for drivers, they're pushing people through a lot faster. They're basically training to the test. So
Okay.
prior to the law, you could get a CDL and never drive at night. So the new law does require every single student, well, they supposed to. Somebody could easily say they
Hmm.
drove at night practicing, but they didn't. That's why they wanted
Right.
schools to be the only people that do the training because the school's not going to risk their license for a person who doesn't want to come in at night and drive. Because if I'm a daytime
Right.
student, 9 to 5, and it's the summertime, that means I got to come in around 10 o'clock at night to prove to you a couple of days I can do maneuvers and go out on the beltway without running in the back of someone. but we're
Right.
for every single student. But prior to February 7th, you did not have to do that, and that's a scary thought. Your first job
Yeah.
might be the overnight shift. You get behind the wheel for the bridge,
Right.
and it's night, and you've never driven at night before.
Right, and I'll say to their credit, so I would compare this to say like diversity training, whereby a lot of people complain about this. It's trainings that a lot of large corporations make people take, so that you don't go to work and be a bigot, and then there's a lawsuit, and generally it goes back to the company where it said, hey, this is what your employee just did, embarrassing the country, national television, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, what did you do to prevent this? And so the companies get to say, well, then I provided this diversity training. You
Yep.
can't say that I didn't try to tell them. And so that I see this as being similar. But as a growing industry, I mean, this was very much a boys club, old boys club
Mhm.
field at one point in time. It's changing. I mean, my aunt was running our family company, and doing dispatch, and the drivers weren't used to seeing a woman come around.
Yeah.
Kind of had to retire the skirts because there was a little too much. Some couldn't handle it. And even here, I met someone who lived. How is it that I am here in Petersburg? I was talking about a condo building, coincidentally kind of trashing it, just not thinking, what are the chances of me running into someone from there? The person lived in that building, like within blocks of where I used to live, and she's now here with doing dispatch with a trucking company of her own. She literally just started this,
Small world.
and also living around me again, young black girl here.
Mhm. Interesting. Very
So
small world.
it,
Mhm.
yeah, so it is important that you are choosing to try to get more people in this industry, young people,
Mhm.
and to prevent them from having to go to, what was it, Iowa, you said?
Iowa is one of the most
Yeah.
popular places. There's some other ones that are not as far, but CRST is a humongous organization. They have deep pockets. It's nothing for them
Right,
to
I know
have
they've been around forever.
25 people come from all over the country. They put them up
Mhm.
in some kind of dorm room. They pay them a little stipend, and they get road in 30 days. We haven't had a whole lot of training because they're also what's called a third party testing facility. So they train them and they
Mhm.
literally test them for their CDL, and they pass the test. They go down to the DMV. They give them give them a CDL driver's license. So third party
Okay.
test has been around for a while now, and they're one of the organizations who test their own people. We haven't gotten it yet, but we want to do that too. But anybody that tests, they will not train that person. We probably won't even get a chance to meet them until they test them. Yeah,
Okay.
that's just
And,
not.
and I'll add, what you're doing, I had part of the reason why I went how you came up where I said that I needed to speak to you, not only because obviously I have history of following your work, but while we were while talking about how we're setting up the economy here in the city in the future, because Petersburg is a revitalizing city. I was talking about how the mayor needs to use his bully pulpit. As I'm writing, doing PR, doing pitches and whatnot, sort of selling this area, kind of, there's nothing that the city has online explaining what we're known for.
Yep.
And I said, well, that's the problem. I said, well, I'm pretty much making up what I see. And I said, and the mayor could do the same thing. I said, use your bully pulpit. And I said, the economy can be whatever the hell he wants it to be. So our rural ward this year, Ward One, I said, if he wanted to, and it started with a joke, I said that he could stand up and say that I want to help the supply chain. So we're going to put trucking schools here in Ward One. And that's what we're going to be known for. And I said, then he could make national news for for helping with this freight backup that we've had for now a couple years.
Mhm.
And some people were upset. They said that that's stepping over the council member. I said, but can he do it? And who's going to argue against it? It's a pretty good idea. And then this led to I said, you know what? I'm going to talk to someone with a CDL school because I remember that I actually have that connection.
Yeah,
So hopefully,
we would love to
hopefully
come to
someone
Petersburg.
telling the
It's on
mayor. In
record. We would
fact,
love to come to Petersburg.
great. Look, I've been poaching folks by the way from DC to come down here for some things though.
I have a
hold you
very,
to
very
that.
close friend. She was part of my organization probably since 2010. She just left 2 years ago to work on her master's in mental health. Teresa Caldwell. She's in Petersburg. Been down there now for about 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
Her and I have been talking about this offline because we want to go to somewhere in Virginia. We thought Richmond initially, or maybe Petersburg, and then we want to hit South Carolina, where I'm from, near south of the border, and then I own several properties in Atlanta. So we want to go south. We're not going to go Philly, New York. We're going south
Okay.
because the employment
Glad I
opportunity.
brought it up.
So we're coming. We're coming. We're coming. We are coming. And
Perfect opportunity.
with us coming, we're going to be bringing training opportunities for people to train at no cost because we're going to
Okay.
connect with the state to get workforce dollars to do so. Because we're a licensed school, we can tap into the training dollars that exist in the city or in the state
All
and
right.
use the money to train people. Yeah.
Okay. Great. That's perfect. One of my friends is running for city council in that ward, actually.
Okay.
So I will pass that along to him. And so now, even though this started in 2009, I was surprised to find out. I didn't realize that you ran for city council.
Oh no,
Um,
that was a long time ago. I got
yes.
scared. I
Yeah,
got
you ran for council, and I guess I was wondering, or my assumption, I know what you were dealing with trying to, get through in Ward 8 with your program. And then I realized that I wonder if, God rest his soul, but did your run for council against Marion Barry possibly have something to do with a little difficulty with his office, possibly?
I would want to say no, but I've been around long enough in DC and I understand how the politics work. I wouldn't put anything past anyone when it comes to
Mhm.
political influence, when it comes to running for office and maintaining the office. I just
Mhm.
personally feel that every single politician in Washington, D.C. has, in my opinion, ignored what we have built. Yet people all over the country think what we have done is absolutely amazing and it's incredibly embarrassing. The day is going to come when someone like an Oprah Winfrey or CNN is going to want to talk to me and my students about what we've built, and we're going to tell the whole story. We really have gotten ignored. We just started doing work in Anne Arundel County and in Prince George's County, and the relationship is so
Mhm.
much different than what it is in DC.
Really?
Unbelievably different. Unbelievably different. I feel like a stepchild and in Prince George's County and Anne Arundel County. I feel like I'm the only child.
I
So
see.
it's actually embarrassing because we've helped a lot of young people. I gotta stop saying young people because we train anybody. But I should
Right.
probably say we've helped a lot of families get out of poverty, not just a person. Because my students, some of them, their parents live with them now. So now they're able
Oh,
to buy,
nice.
oh, big time. We have students, they buy their little brother's school clothes now. So they don't have to wear house.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
tell my new students, when you hear me talk about other students, go look at their social media page on Christmas Day this year, and then go find out the year they before they got in whole project, and you look at their Christmas Day social media, and you'll see the difference. You go from 15 presents underneath the tree to 15 to 1500. You know, man,
Yeah.
we have people 21 years old and make $90,000. They've never stepped foot in anybody's college. Yeah.
And these are the stories that both need to be told. These are the examples that people need to know about. And look, so back to you, running for office. Well, I will say that when I came to see you, I can describe or could describe Raymond Bell as being definitely very passionate. Um, for what you're doing. I
I'm
was
holding back on this
stand.
interview, by the way.
I know you are. So yes, I'm slightly caught off guard by that. I think he's too quiet. I
Right.
don't know this guy.
I'm definitely holding back.
Yeah, I was
I'll be
watching. Yeah, I was watching you speaking, and I said, "Wow!" And this guy has clearly been through a lot to be speaking this passionately about it. I was telling Patrice about it later because I think I went on my own. I don't remember, but you look. You've had your history, and again,
Mhm.
dealing with folks who are trying to, remain in office. It is what it is. But I actually did like a research project on this where I was trying to figure out what the problem was. I was going to figure out why was Raymond Bell having issues here, which is why I found out later on, that you had ran for office, and I said, I think that I might have stumbled across something because I actually texted Barry's girlfriend um, about you actually
Mhm.
because I was determined. I was already invested in this,
Mhm.
and so I think that she referred, that she referred you to maybe chief of staff or something. I think at the time, I don't remember. I was sharing an office with Tommy Wells, his minority outreach director,
Mhm.
and Ron Williams. And then I remember he was, sharing your program and somehow it made its way over into Bowser's camp. I don't quite, recall how that went, but there were, the eyes were there, and as you said, people, outside of the area, definitely recognize it. But the work speaks for itself, and as you said, I do believe that the time is going to come where look, folks will have a reckoning for their own track record, juxtaposed with people such as yourself.
So I want to make sure people know that my goal for running for office, I would have loved to have had the opportunity to represent Ward 8, but the work that I do now trumps it. And I have absolutely zero interest in ever running for anybody's office. Matter of fact, it wouldn't
Well,
make
there
sense.
goes that question.
I would never run because people wouldn't vote for me because I'm too honest. Unfortunately, a lot of the voters in certain communities, they prefer to be lied to. They feel much better having someone say, sure, as soon as I get in office, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to make sure you get employed with this company or that company, or I'm going to make sure you get access to these kind of startup business funds. I'm the person that's going to say, until you get some additional skills, it's going to be hard for you to get a job anywhere. Or until you show up
Okay.
with a business plan and become more educated about the kind of company you want to start, it's going to be hard
Hmm.
for anybody to want to fund you. People that are looking for candidates don't want to hear that. And that's what I would say to people because I love my people and I think they need to be told the truth, which is why so
Right.
many people in Ward 8 are continuing to struggle. You know, honestly, I think it's bigger than just politics. I was talking to the DYRS director recently. A council member
Hmm.
asked me to please talk to this lady about what you're doing because we need to get programs like yours inside of DYRS. I'm sure your folks don't know about DYRS. That's the Department for Youth
You,
Services. Yeah,
yeah.
DYRS, Youth Rehabilitation Services. So it's like a mini prison in a sense for those that
Hmm.
may not be familiar. But long story short, I got on the call, had a quick conversation. And I was telling about all the great things that we have done for young people, people of color from the neighborhoods where a lot of the kids are arrested and are doing time. And at the end, I asked her, this is why I have such a problem with politics. I said, so what kind of budget do you have to bring us in to try to help? And she said she didn't have one. Now, this is the lady that runs the Department of Rehabilitation, Youth Rehabilitation Services. She said she had no budget for workforce development. So probably 6 months prior to that call last month, late last month, I went to Oak Hill. It's if your folks, most of your folks in
Hmm.
Washington D.C., so they know Oak Hill up in Laurel. It's a little mini prison for young kids.
Hmm. It's been a while since I've heard that.
Yeah. I hadn't been there in a long time. I think the last time I went was probably in the '90s, and I went to visit. I wasn't a resident. So anyway, I went to talk to them because somebody asked me if I would come and have a conversation with a young man about the work that I was doing. And probably 30 minutes into it, when I felt I had gained enough of, I felt confident enough asking a question, I said to the group, "Y'all raise your hand if you are in here because it has something to do with money." Every hand went up but one. I thanked the one
See?
for raising their hands. I turned to the young person and said, "So if you're not in for money, do you mind sharing with us why you're here?" I thought it was gonna be some weird situation that I was like, maybe I probably shouldn't even ask him that because if he say it, it make him feel bad. He said,
Hmm.
"Well, I'm stealing cars." I said, "Well, why were you stealing cars?" He said, "Because I didn't have my own." And I said, "So that tells me that what you did was over money. Because if you made as much, because I took two of my graduates with me, I said, if you made as
Hmm.
much as Bernard, who also has a felony conviction, he makes $75,000 working in the IT department at Planned Parenthood. You wouldn't have to go steal a car. You probably worry about somebody stealing your Camaro or your Dodge Charger with the loud."
Right.
So, in my opinion, you are in here because of money. So the lady's telling me that
Yeah.
we have a budget for workforce and job training, and that's the main
It's
reason.
amazing.
That makes no sense to me.
Absolutely not.
No sense to me. And she said it with a straight face and was looking for me to help her identify the resources. I wouldn't dare do that. I'm not going to waste my time, effort, and energy trying to find funding streams for a government agency that has a budget of God knows how many zeros.
Right.
I'm not.
And that should be the main focus, if anything. If you ask each of the kids that were in the room, what is it that they needed? It would probably be money related.
It always goes back, even if they in there because some girl they were dating. It always goes back to showing off. You not having a fancy car, the other guy is.
Hmm.
You got real Louis Vuitton belt. Yours is fake, so you're not as interesting as the other guys are because of what they have. Because you don't have the income to buy those things.
Right. It goes back to money.
It always goes back to income. So when I hear
And
people talk and they're not, they talk about not job, they talk about crime, violence, and stuff like that. It's never a serious conversation about careers, jobs, and mentoring people for employment. I gotta say this if you don't mind me sharing this.
go ahead.
Here in DC, all the time they talk about affordable housing, right? I'm sure you're
Yes.
on that topic. Townhouses, condos, big apartment buildings, commercial on the first floor, 300 units.
Hmm.
Our students don't even qualify for any of those programs because they make too much. My issue is they put so much time and dedication into it, but the people are still poor. Glad that they got a roof over their head. There's
Right.
top of Goodall Road where I grew up at. They got a brand new building. When Walmart pulled out, they put a nice apartment building, got some stores coming, and the sign says $1,600 for one bedroom.
Hold
That's
on. I don't know. You're talking about the place, Skyland area, right?
yes,
I
yes.
lived next door around the corner. I lived at Branch and Southern. I was in Marlboro
Yeah,
House
maybe
there.
the
So
last time
yeah,
you've been in DC, man, but Southeast is changing and it's scary for the
very
students
much so.
walking around blind, not even seeing what's happening, like right in front of them. The sign says $1,600 one bedroom. That sign might as well have said no poor people, because that's what it meant. They put it up there
Hey,
in bold letters.
I use
People.
examples like that all the time. So I lived in, oh my God, so before I left here, I'm almost so silly for saying, I was in like three different units in that building between '06 until leaving in 2017. I like the building. But anyway, long story short, dating back to '07, there was a sign outside that said townhomes 700,000 next door. And so, as someone who looked getting through the recession, like I learned to, or maybe it's a little later than that, but I learned to pay attention. Like you see it before it sees you. So those are the things. Those are the key points that I look out for. And just when I saw that sign of the $700,000 townhomes, which never happened, by the way, they're supposed to
Mhm.
be right on the line, right on the Branch and Southern Avenue line. They're going to build it behind the apartment complex, but they couldn't get it done. I just remember saying, "Oh, well, this is interesting. What does this mean? Will I need to be looking for somewhere else to go? Because I'm pretty sure having something that amounts next door is going to mean that I'm going to be paying more."
Mhm.
And they consider that another thing. I just like made a post about this on Twitter. Like they consider that to be affordable. I saw homes I'm sorry, apartments that were just being proposed. Amazon is building affordable housing in two parts of PG County, one being New Carrollton, I forgot the other area. He's putting $2 billion into that. and the affordable units, which the county executive said hallelujah to the announcements, they were somewhere starting at 1,400, somewhere starting at 1,600. And I said, there's a lot of people who can't afford either and don't consider either of those numbers affordable or close to it.
Yeah.
So that's, really interesting. And this is where, people such as yourself um, are able to help because clearly we all know that, affordable housing is needed, but certainly not that definition
But I think
of it.
the point I want to make sure I stress before we leave the topic
Mhm.
is, so if you go to McDonald's, I stopped eating, but when I used to eat McDonald's, me and my nephew went, we both ordered a number two, quarter pounder meal, large Coke. I know that's bad for my health, so I don't do it anymore. It was $21 for two people at McDonald's. That's a lot of money. So if you're
It is.
and you live in that building, you can't go to McDonald's and ask for the affordable discount because you're a poor person. You pay the same amount everybody else pays.
You're right, right, right.
I don't understand why they won't find a way to help the person literally come out of poverty. Great, you gave them a place to stay, but that cannot be the end game. They still are poor.
Right.
They can't travel to King's Dominion. They can't go to Disney World. They can't take their kids on vacation. They can't do some of the stuff that a lot of us can just do because we have that middle income or high middle income, we're in a high middle income tax bracket. I want to see them pay just as much attention to careers and jobs and underemployment as they do housing, because housing is not the fix, in my opinion. And they'll use the
Right.
language where we get a roof over their head, they become comfortable, and then all these other things can happen. Here's my point to that. I got students that were couch surfing. I got a student, don't want to mention his name, but he slept
Mhm.
in my school for 2 weeks when his girlfriend put him out. Then I gave
Wow.
him money to stay in a weekly hotel for 2 weeks until he got his first job. So I don't want to hear people say when you get a roof over your head, a whole lot of other things happen. To me, you put employment, careers, opportunities first, and all those other
Mhm.
things line up. My students don't qualify for vouchers for affordable housing. They make too much. That's I suppose
Mhm.
my students can't get. I got young girls 23 years old that are paying $120 a week for a 1 or 2 year old. They don't get a voucher no more.
Yeah.
So, but they can afford to do it, and that's how it's supposed to be. And there's not enough of that conversation. I'll stop there on that. There's a big
No,
for me.
very much so. Look, affordable housing has been something that I've studied, again, ever since we met. I think that Patrice told me once, she said there's no affordable housing in DC. And I got up and I said, well, I was going to prove her wrong. And I literally went out on foot doing a research project for years. And this has been, something that I've studied since. But to answer your question, sort of why is it not focused to, create opportunities to just get people out of poverty? I really see it as eugenics. The same way that we don't, that people in office don't think that certain people are capable of having, high earning positions, from the start. It's the same reason that they don't think that they can give them some type of opportunity to move further. So to put them in the corner over there, send them over there, and then let it work itself out. That's really what it turns into. And we know, and I always say that it's not like we don't have history, to go by. Chicago tore down the massive number of projects that they had, and the crime just moved along. Not that they were all bad people. You could have a building with thousands of people who were not working. They literally were not, at the time, like Cabrini Green came down. So it's not like we don't know what's going to happen here. And so long as you decide to just move people around like on a, like it's a chessboard, you're going to continue to have the same problems. And lastly, regarding affordable housing, they generally have these tax credits that are about 20 years, and
Mhm.
so after 20 years, the building can go to market rate. So that it's the same. If they've not improved, and some may not, it will just continue. It will continue 20 years from now, and they will be shifted somewhere else until you actually decide to deal with it. Or you'll be, hit upside the head walking down the street because you chose to, put people in the pen without any type of economic opportunity.
Leadership is going to have to realize that the answer is jobs and careers and coaching. It's not affordable housing. My students are not looking for quote unquote affordable housing. If there was an
Hmm.
opportunity to kind of present itself, yes, but that's not, they don't live for that. I have a
Right.
student right there on 8th Street with all the young white kids that graduated college and have these jobs on the hill and they work at law firms. She lives right up there over top of that giant on like 3rd and 8th Street, just like all
Hmm.
them
I know
students.
what you mean.
She get her coffee in the morning. She get her Uber. She go to work. My kids hang out over there on the weekends. They can go in late and they can pay for their drinks because they making $70,000,
Yeah.
$80,000, and they not going to bother anybody because they have clearances. They're worrying about somebody bothering them.
Right.
I don't know if your people heard me, but I say I got 800 students that have some kind
Yes.
of clearance. And the reason why I'm bringing it up again, because when I started Whole Project, people were telling me, well, even if you had good quality training, those kids will never get a job because they all done been in trouble. I got 800 students that have a government clearance, and some of them have background checks, and they still hold secret clearances.
And that's amazing, and definitely something I want to see more of. And I'll add, look, for those who want to prioritize affordable housing, I remember there was a building that was in New York City whereby, like, so there's a thing now called like poor doors, whereby the people
Mhm.
who make market rate walk in one door and then everyone else goes in the other door. And one of the tenants who go in the other door was saying that it's lovely that she's in this building. It's nice. She's treated like a second-rate citizen. There's a pool she can overlook at that
Yes.
she can't go into, and she's in this nice neighborhood around all of these shops that she can't go to and restaurants that she can't eat in.
Mhm.
I'm quite certain that that is not the end goal or objective that anyone that is going to your school or even lives around them or are friends with them actually wants. They want to have this type of economic end goal. And this is, exactly what I try to tell other people um, of what's needed. And I hope that I can, try to get you to Petersburg sometime soon. That wasn't
I'm
necessarily my
coming.
objective
I
when I
am
started
coming.
this, but
It's
yeah.
on our list. We're going DC all the way to Atlanta. We're gonna hit at least two states in between. And because Teresa's already there, it makes perfect sense for us to do Petersburg. I definitely got to get you two connected.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm very involved. I've been very involved politically since I've
Okay.
been here. So
Can I want to share one more thought. I don't know how much time we have left,
sure.
but I wanted to make sure your audience know that what we have done, in my opinion, is unprecedented. I travel all over the country, and I'm a lot of the big uh, workforce development organizations like Goodwill, which is the largest one in the country. They hire me to come in and coach their staff, work with their students. Never seen, and they've told me this. They've never seen anything like what we've done. 2,000 graduates, 8 of them had clearances, $70,000 a year on average, and less than 5% of those 2,000 people have a 4-year degree. And when I say our students are community, they are unbelievably tight. They are closer than the sororities and the fraternities. Because in their opinion, that's what Whole Project is for them, because they didn't get a chance to play it because they didn't go to school. So
Yeah,
my students, when they go on a job interview, you can almost guarantee they're going to get employed because somebody from my school already works at that place now.
I heard you say that.
So when a student gets an interview, like we got some people about to interview at the World Bank, where you used to work, they're going to be so incredibly prepared for that interview because we already have people in place. And the people that are there, they don't even know the students who are trying to get the job now, but they will spend 2 hours on the phone to prep them. And the reason was
That's
somebody
really good.
the community that we built is what I like to call a microcosm of what the Black community could look like. All the people that
Yeah.
were on the Whole Project were poor. I want to say that one more time. Every student who ever walked through my door was poor. Even the few that had 4-year degrees, they were struggling too. Even Jonathan Murphy, who's as sharp as I don't know what, graduated from Harvard, uh, degree in computer science, was an alpha, and he was serving drinks at Uniontown Bar on Martin Luther King Avenue when we met him.
Okay.
He was
Really?
professional. We got people like that have come to us for help. It's an unbelievable community, and I would love to see programs like Hope Project all over the country. it's going to take people like you to keep putting me on shows like this to make people aware that something like this even exists. Because when people find out, like, well, that I didn't even think anything like that even existed anywhere, because that's not what they see in the young people. Only the ones that go to
Right.
Spelman, Howard, do they expect to make $100,000
Hmm.
as a cybersecurity professional? I got a whole bunch of students under 25 that are cyber engineers, never even stepped foot in a college.
And look, the people that you work with, as you said, these are not handpicked students and people.
No cherry
Um,
picking.
w-
They just from the
one
neighborhood.
of Yeah, and so one of the issues that I have, particularly like with charter schools, is that when it comes to
Yes.
um, going over their success rates,
Yes.
I point out that it's because even though the rules always say that they don't pick and choose students,
I know
yeah,
where
but
you're going with
if you only accept students with high proficiency rates, like I started this as an argument here in my city, and I said I want you, before you all sell something, I want you to actually know what you're talking about, because well, I went to a charter school, went to a couple actually, one closed for money laundering by the way, so I know a little bit of something about this, and I said the students are handpicked. Often, again, based on proficiency rates, which means that if one were to come to Petersburg, I said, our city has the worst school system in the state.
Yeah.
So does that mean that everyone here is not going to be able to go to the charter school? I mean, that's very likely what could happen.
Yeah.
But you all are pushing something that you don't even know about. And so again, you are dealing with those who fall out of that range. When I was in the World Bank, there was a summer. There is a summer job program for people who are coming there. And I remember talking to someone about having one come in a department that I was in. By the way, I worked in 7 buildings before. I moved around there. I know the place like the back of my hand. I think all the buildings except for one or two. Um, and I remember there was a concern about getting kids from DC public schools. And just knowing how these things tend to work, I said, well, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I hate saying this now, but I said, no one in a school system is going to send the worst of their children to the World Bank. So I'm pretty sure that you're not going to have trouble. Okay. Meaning they will handpick the best. No one's sending a kid who just shot someone last week, you know. But someone has to deal with those people. And so that was the thing that I appreciate, so much from you. I speak to people in the community about what solutions are, and it's always just this group, this other group that's a problem. And I'm always coming back to people hitting folks back with, well, it doesn't serve any purpose to talk about like folks' morality. What does that have to do with anything?
Mhm.
You know,
So
folks have to be shown a better way, etc.
I want to bring this up because not sure how much time we have left, but this thing's another one of those important points. So the charter school movement. So there's a big school, really big school. If I mention the name, everybody would know them. I'll mention because I don't even think it's at this point. I think it's probably public now. It's KIP. So I got a call from them one day. And they said, Mr. Bell, we've been hearing such great things about your program. Would you mind coming over to the school to talk to the students? I said, well, how did you find out about us? She said, well, one of our responsibilities as KIP.
By the way, I probably spoke to that person. Continue.
By Gallaudet. They said, well, they said, I asked them how they found out about us. They said, well, we reach out to our students twice a year, the ones that graduate. And we do that for up to like 4 or 6 years. It might be 10 years, a long time. They stay in touch with their students, which I think is great. And they said, we found out about you because we were calling students and we would ask them how they were doing, where they work. And kids were saying, well, I work at the State Department. I got secret clearance and I'm in IT. And they said, where'd you go to school? I went to Whole Project. And they called another student and they said, well, I'm a project manager over here at the Department of Justice. Well, how'd you get that job? Well, I graduated from Whole Project. That's how they found out about us.
Wow.
They wanted us to come to introduce our program to the students because KIP has been around long enough now.
A long time.
They have to share outcomes of the people that graduated
Yeah.
So they beyond college now, so they're supposed to have a degree and they're supposed to be working, and the numbers are not looking as great as they would have liked them to.
Hmm.
And it's not like they've done anything wrong. Society
Right.
has changed so much. Kids are just not investing the 4 years in $180,000 in a lot of schools anymore. They're seeing other
Hmm.
things. One of the young ladies that they called, she had a full ride, 4 year ride to a PWI in Western Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
She came to us for the Marynbury Summer Youth Program. Fell in love with what we were doing, not just for those 6 weeks, but her brother and her two sisters had gone through the whole project.
Ah.
Her mother was looking for me probably with a knife and a gun because that young lady scholarship up. She did not go to school.
Wow.
And this is after her brother and two sisters went through the school and they doing really well. They graduated from Hope Project. But this was
Hmm.
her baby and she had a full ride. She like, I'm going to Hope. Long story short, job in agriculture, stayed there for about 3 months, making 42,000, got her clearance, and then moved on to a $65,000 a year job. She was 19 years old.
Wow.
That's the kind of stuff I want your audience to know that we're doing, because DeAndre from cohort 9 probably said it best. Because you asked about politics. He said, Bill, they don't like you because you self-made and you helping people like me. That means
That's
him with a background challenge, poor performance in school, making $70,000, $80,000 and can get that one bedroom apartment at the top of Good Hope Road. He's not
mhm.
supposed to be able to live up there.
Right. You're right.
That moved to DC, graduate from college, take a job here, don't go home. Those apartments are for them. And my students, I got a lady that graduated from Hope Project. She's in her mid-40s. She works at the Pentagon, and she was calling and let me know that she had made it into the $100,000 a year club. I need y'all to hear
Oh
this.
man.
She said, Mr. Bell, I know most of the students are young, but I made it. I'm
Mhm.
in a $100,000 a year club. I was calling to thank you. I'm at the Pentagon. I got a secret clearance now. And said, I just want to tell you how proud I am being from the school, because I walk these halls and you got Hope Project young people all up and through here. She's from the South. She was happy to tell me that she walked the halls, and the certain young people, she would stop and ask them, did you go to Hope Project? And they say yes. And she said she stopped certain ones because how they walk through the building. That's the difference in Hope and a 4 year school or other job training programs that exist, because my job is not to teach people how to use computers. My job is to build leaders.
Yeah, your competition is dealing with a government that would. I would hear these stories of people, getting grants for having folks doing, resume writing
Yeah.
and computer skills
The most
and
hurtful
things
one
like
for
that.
me, the most hurtful one for me was when I won a grant in DC to train 20 people to get an entry-level IT certification. I won the grant. They called me, emailed me a week later and said they were pulling it back. And they have the right to do that. It says in all their grants, they can pull it back anytime they want. Well, they pulled it back, and then 2 weeks later, I go on the same grants board and I see a grant. Ours was for only 75,000. I see a
Mhm.
grant 2 weeks later for Dress for Success, and it was $150,000 grant. They were looking for someone to take used clothes and share them with people who may be looking for a job and need an interview outfit or a week's worth of clothes to get them started on a professional job. And I'm not saying that's not important, but this
Mhm.
is Raymond Bell, the founder of Hope Project, who won a grant and they pulled it away. And I don't know if they used the money that they were going to give me for the clothing drive, but that's how I sold.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
to poor people who are trying to get out of poverty. I have such issues with DOES because to me, that's the
Mhm.
one agency where a person should be able to walk in there poor and based on what they
Yes.
get from that organization, come out into the middle class. If they're not designed to do that, they're not doing their job. And it bothers me that a lot of the people in there, not all of them, they think they're at DPW or DPR and their job is to fix potholes. I wouldn't be yelling and screaming like this if I was doing construction work and I was looking for
Right.
contracts. I'm trying to change people's lives. So I need the people on the opposite side to be just as intense. And if they're not, I think they should go work at DPW, where you don't have to worry about whether or not a person gonna have a place to stay because they don't have employment or a good paying job.
Right. and you're trying to change something that has been an issue that people complain about for God knows how long.
Yes.
Right? And then what ends up happening is, well, if we just play with them and push this out, just let this run its course with little things like resume writing, etc. Then we can declare this group as either incompetent, nothing can be done with them,
Yes.
and that's when you have reason to. Because when I came here, I used plenty of examples from DC of how this is how you get to paint a demographic a certain way, and now you got reasons to come with the bulldozer. Well, we couldn't do anything with all of Simple City. Let's knock it all down. But it takes, again, programs like yours.
But
Go ahead.
I keep saying I want to stress these points, but I don't know how much
Sure.
time we
Go
have.
ahead.
Some of this stuff is so important
Unless
for
you do it.
because they're not going to really get a chance to hear this like a whole lot of places about this level of success
Hmm.
for the population. We got to get to the point where we see the young people the way I see them. When I see a young person that's standing on the corner, smell like weed, got some tattoos, pants sagging, I see it as an opportunity for me to transform their life. I get to walk up to that kid and say, if you come with me, I can turn you into $100,000 employee and you can get that Camaro or that Dodge Charger and get you a real Louis Vuitton belt and all the other stuff that you like. And I can introduce you to 150 young people your same age from your same neighborhood that's already done it. So we got to get to the point where we have those kind of conversations because you had said it earlier. They don't think the kids can do it. But we dispelled that myth. I'm at 2,000. I don't know
Yeah.
how many young kids I got to transform in order to get people to recognize that the same kids that they think can't do anything, they can. And I've got proof. So I testified before the council next week, the budget hearing, and
Okay.
probably the second time because my students don't like for me to do it. Like, Bill, why you always going down there? Why you always testifying? Because you've been doing that for the last 10, 12 years and nothing has happened. They just don't care about what we're
I mean,
doing.
so that they could sit in the room and have their, I won't use the word, so that they can sit there, amongst themselves and lie and not have anyone tell the other perspective. So it's important for you to be there. Similarly, I'm always trying to drag people to public meetings. It doesn't matter. Well, it does matter if they change, but if they don't, they're still listening. They're still listening. This is on public record. It's on camera, etc. I just like I went back and I was looking at commentary of yours and how you were discussed in various city meetings this morning. So people see it.
So
It changed what happened one way or the other. But go ahead.
this is probably gonna be the most important like political thing that I say. I can't give you
Hmm.
name, and most of your audience probably gonna know who I'm talking about, but I'm not gonna say the name. So I went to a meeting with one of the council members, and they were white.
Hmm.
And when the meeting started, we were there to talk about obviously the work that I do. Before we started, the person said, Raymond, before we start, I want to first tell you how impressed I am with how you work with those young black men. The white woman telling me that.
Hmm.
No politician has ever said that to me. Then she went on to say, well, the mayor is black. The director of DOS is black. The director of the Workforce Investment Council is black. This is the only time, Javon, that I've ever not had a response when somebody asks me anything about Hope Project. I can talk about, and your audience can probably tell, I can talk about Hope Project for hours. He then said, and this is the only time I didn't have an answer. She said, why are you in here having to talk to me? That hurt me. She's a white woman. And then I left after the meeting. It was a good meeting. And I got outside. I started replaying what she said. And then I said to myself, she wasn't just asking me that. She was telling me something. And what she was telling me was, if the people that are struggling are of my race and the people that run the city are of my race, ain't no way in the world I'm going to have to go to somebody that's not in my race to ask for help.
Hmm.
That's
See?
something to do as black people, and it got to stop. Basically, what this city has done, they have shown their true selves when it comes to us. Because now that we're doing a lot of work in Prince George's County, they've given me more work than I can handle. I literally have had to turn down
Wow.
opportunities. They see me, they like, they don't think they done hit the jackpot, Javon. They're like, oh my God, Mr. Bill, can you do this? Well, we got a summer youth program. I know you've done work in the city. Would you be willing to do a program out here? Well, we got an internship or apprenticeship program that we want to get you to help us with these employers that want to bring people in, but they got to have certification. I've never had the people in DC talk to me like that. And I've only been working with them for about 4 months. Now, granted,
Really?
work, but they got a chance because I didn't want to go to Prince George's County. I wanted to help the people in Washington, D.C., because that's where I am from. And I know the sons and the daughters of a lot of people that I personally grew up with. I want to try to help them.
Yeah.
But the city has made it so hard for me. DeAndre was right. He said, Bill, you self-made, they don't like you. And they don't like the fact you're helping people that look like me. Because we are a big-time organization in D.C. People try to make it seem like we're not. But ain't nobody in D.C. even close to what we have built. I can go on Facebook right now and say I got an info session on Monday at any location in D.C. and 100 people show up. I think probably the time you came, probably 100 or 200 people in the room, and we were still relatively new back then.
It was certainly a full room, yeah.
No one else in this city could do that. Even if a politician said, I'm having a job training info session next week, it would not be 100 people there. They come because of what we've already done to help people like them. They're not coming because they want to just hear me talk or they think I'm now. They know the program that we've built helps people get out of poverty because they know friends and family members that have done it. Once we get the city to recognize that this is the way that it's supposed to be when it comes to job training and careers, then you'll start seeing the reduction in crime and violence. I said it earlier. My students, once they graduated, they from the Simple City, Good Hope Road, Bury Farms, all those crazy neighborhoods. Not one has ever been arrested for a violent crime since they graduated. So if we had 20,000 kids, 20,000 less people would have committed the crime.
See, there's the solution. And another connection, speaking of PG County, I'm the communications director for a school board race in PG County. And one of the main points of ours is expanding the career technical program, which, surprise, surprise, look who I'm speaking to right now. Didn't even occur to me since starting this campaign in December. So my candidate, who I know has been trying to reach me this morning, I have to share with him. He has to know about your program if he doesn't already.
Yeah, we are firmly planted in Prince George's County. So the way Hope Project is set up right now, we have 1 foot on Southern Avenue on the Prince George's County side.
Okay.
Southern Avenue, like the border. One of our feet is already over there, and we're on our tiptoes in DC. We are literally about to cross over, and I probably won't be doing a whole lot of work in DC probably a year from now. If we have another conversation this time next year, I'll probably be telling you we're no longer working with the city.
Now, did you say that? Now, are you on Southern Avenue? Like specifically?
No, I was using that as an analogy.
Got it. Okay. But I was just going to say, what a chance. Yeah.
The Southern Avenue, the Southern Avenue border of DC and Maryland. One of our feet is on that side, on the Maryland side. Right. And the other one is about to drop.
Okay. Yes. All right. Now I'm not going to hold you. So now you just started the whole project being online.
So we started the whole project online primarily because of the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, we couldn't get any job training dollars. People still wanted to be helped, and there were so many openings for IT support because everybody was working at home, so they needed more people to answer phones to do so. I'm like, y'all, come on! I'm telling this to the city. Ghost. Nobody's picking up the phone. Nobody has any helping us get it. So I said, know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna lower the price as much as I can, but people gonna have to pay out of pocket because I gotta pay my instructors, gotta buy the books and all that. Right. So we literally probably ran about 4 or 5 classes, maybe more. I'm not sure how many, but I know we've had 450 people that have enrolled in the program. It costs $1,000, so you can do the math on that. Okay. I literally just do that, and we could do really, really well because it's very low overhead. I don't have to pay a lot of money. I don't have to have any physical space. One of my instructors lives in Arizona. My commitment has always been to helping. For some reason, people think I'm on a money grab or I'm poverty pimping, even though I've helped all these people. Right. Your audience knows, I know a lot of the folks listening are probably people who know about me. I am not in this for the money. Never have. And I think that's my advantage because I am one of those people who is not motivated by money. So I haven't had to do things just simply for money that has allowed me to stay the way that I am and run the company the way that I run it.
I mean, you've had a good record. You have not been in the middle of anything.
Oh
You
no,
know,
you had no scandals,
over the years.
none.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we probably wouldn't have been sitting here otherwise together.
I'll
But
give you an
yeah,
example again, my commitment to that. So my instructors, they're intentionally all, not that older guys don't do crazy stuff too. All
Mhm,
my instructors are late 40s, early 50s. They got grandkids the age of a lot of my students. None of
mhm.
my staff or even me can ever put a female in our car unless there's another person in the car. If I saw one of my students out at the
Mhm.
bus stop in pouring rain with their kid and it was a female, I would stop. I would set up an Uber and wait until the Uber got there, but I would not put them in my car. I'm never going to put myself, I'm not allow my staff to put themselves in any kind of position because I know we're a target. They're waiting,
Right.
whoever they are, they're waiting on something bad to happen. I feel that way with our program so they can say, aha, see, look how they act. That's why we've never did
You're
anything.
probably you're probably right. You are. I'm almost certain of it. I think of during some of my heaviest time of being involved in politics in DC, there were just less than a handful of instances that were, I just had some very strange interactions. Like one person, I was convinced that a council member sent this girl to trail us around, to ask all types of questions, learn what she can, um, things like that. Folks again looking for stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know, thank you for being mindful of that.
Mhm.
And of course, all of these years, even dating back to when you ran for office, this is over 20 years ago.
Yep.
You've not had anything in that time period. As opposed to, many of your peers over the years.
Mhm.
So, that is that's a testament to you as well. So, listen, for those who are interested in being a part of the Hope Project, could you let everyone know how to do so?
Sure. So the best thing to do is definitely follow me on social media because even our website doesn't really tell the whole story because I'm always updating. So Ray Bell JR on all social media, and our website is Hope Project Academy or hopeprojectdc.org. But I'm telling you, the best way to get connected with us is definitely through social media because I use social media to share the stories of success of our students, and it's also where I have built my notes for the book that I'm writing. So I'll be able to go back to
Oh,
social media, and that's just a trick for people who want to write a book. For me, I started this in 2009, so all of the notes about all the activities, all the stories, they're right there on social media. I'm just going to go back through them and compile them, and that's my book.
I learned something. You're writing a book? I had no idea.
It's probably about a year away, but I'm close. It'll be a tell-all, but it'll also be very educational for anyone who wants to get into the workforce development space or works with kids. Because a lot of my work, I like to tell people this: I'm not in the computer training business. I'm in the people business. I
Yes.
really only started a whole project to build leaders, not to just build like cybersecurity engineers, because I feel that when a person has skills in terms of communication and discipline
Right.
and how to make sacrifice, they can do anything else. They can do
Right.
anything in IT, but you got to have those skills before you could attempt to take a role down as a cybersecurity professional. And that's
And
what's
how do you?
lacking in the community.
Yeah. And how do you change a community, but with leaders, right?
And you need a lot of them. So that's what I'm trying to build. Other students or other kids look up to my students and want to be like them now. And that was part of the plan because I can't be everywhere. I can't touch
Right.
every single person. But if we get enough little Ray Bells running around DC, we can have major impact.
Absolutely, and you already have so far. So Raymond, thank you. I really appreciate it. I want you to hang behind for just a second after I end, after the outro. So everyone else, I'll be doing another show at 3 o'clock. I will be interviewing um, Piper Carter, Detroit activist, entertainment specialist, in just a few hours. That'll be a little more of a normal hour, so I'll be awake then. And this show, aside from being on my YouTube channel, this will be on the Misty TV channel on Roku. Likely sometime next week. Raymond, thank you. This was definitely a pleasure. We have to catch up again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.